Me, Ingrid, the INFP. Um, so I'm going to talk about specializations today because people have been asking about this. Um, I made a video last year about studying and about my life as a junior doctor. Since then, I've started my internship, which is like basically 1.5 years where you do rotations in different places. And after that, you basically get your diploma, your legitimation, and then you can work as a doctor. But you're not specialized yet. That's yet another residency in that case. So I got this spot in March, right when Corona started, so everything has been kind of crazy. But I'm very glad I have a job in these tough times. So I was on an interview in March, and I found out in like April I was going to start in September in this residency, and you start a residency in a surgery. So a block of surgery, 4.5 months, and then medicine for also 4.5 months, 3 months psychiatry, 6 months primary care. It differs at different hospitals. Some hospitals have an acute course. Some of them are 21 months instead of 18. It's different, and it's also just a Swedish system that's like makes no sense. But anyway, last year I was in a private clinic as a GP doctor. Primary care has different names. But now I'm in the hospital, and like life as a doctor in the hospital is very different from life in a GP clinic. So at the moment, it seems like I like primary care quite a lot. So it seems like maybe that's the route I'll take. But I don't need to decide about specializations yet. I think I've talked about this before about being in primary care as a INFP is what I think would work best for an INFP. But of course, I'll go through the other specialties too. I don't want to be a surgeon. That is something I've like decided, and I can enjoy certain aspects of surgery, but I don't want to become a surgeon. Surgery requires long hours, difficult I mean, there's no routine, a lot of stress, and the culture surrounding surgery is still very strict and rigid, and also a macho kind of culture, which doesn't really fit me. The orthopedic doctors were actually kind of fun, but it wasn't something that I'd recommend like an INFP to do. Orthopedic doctors are often SP. They like sports. They like doing. They often like fix stuff in their house. I mean, this is a stereotype, but orthopedic doctors like hitting on stuff, and they like you need to have SE basically to SE or TI, or I don't know. It's not an INFP job really. Even if they were really fun and nice people. The surgeons are usually more square than the SP orthopedic surgeons, but they can be pretty strict, and it's you can't just make it up as you go, basically. Um, they expect you to know your stuff. There is some trend in an INFP that you kind of want to be an expert in something, which is like our investigative nature as intuitives. But you also need to have the practical skills, which like I'm not sure I have. I like doing small surgery like sewing. I've actually become quite good at that, which is weird, as I've never like been good at sewing clothes or anything. But I think there's like the introversion can be a good thing when you're a surgeon, because like surgeons don't talk much, so that's a good thing. And being intuitive is also good, but there is a large part of sensing in surgery and in terms of like acute emergency stuff. Right now I'm at the emergencies, which is like hell for an INFP. I get calls, I have to reply, and I get all these responsibilities that like I've never had before. So emergencies, any emergency medicine is not for INFPs. I don't think I'm restricting anyone by saying that. I think that most INFPs have like understood that that emergency care is not for them, and neither is most surgery, because most surgery is very acute. Elective surgery is less acute, but it still requires a great deal of discipline in order to get all the way to become a surgeon. So I can see why an INFP might like the idea of surgery, in terms of becoming an expert and like working alone on it. But at the same time, I think that there are better fits, to be honest. So a lot of surgical specialties are not something that I would recommend. I think maybe otorhinolaryngology, nose, throat, ears, that might be something that I found interesting. That is a surgical specialty though. I find it very interesting. It's a little bit gross because, you know, it's in the throat and stuff. But I find that it's interesting, in terms of like, if there was a surgical specialty I'd choose that. There is though a lot of acute stuff where you have to come in and, like, for example, if somebody has swallowed something and you have to take it out because you're the throat doctor, basically. So I think that maybe that would be kind of a surgical specialty that an INFP would like. I don't think that they'd like gastroenterological surgery or heart surgery. All that takes a lot of effort. Gynecology is also a surgical specialty. That is a specialty that I think INFPs might be drawn to because of the whole social aspect, and the fact that you get to help women. It could be an INFP's cause to help women in the world. I personally find obstetrics kind of disturbing. I like seeing a childbirth was like kind of traumatizing to me, but some people find it really fascinating. It is fascinating, but this is also not at all what I expected. It was very gory. So but I do understand like why the social aspect would like, if I had to choose between surgical specialties, I would choose either nose, throat, or gynecology. Otherwise, I think I skip on surgery. I wouldn't become a neurosurgeon, that's for sure. Then we come to the medical specialties. And that's the kind of thing where, like, if you're not interested in actual organ, then, like, don't become an internal specialist in that organ. Like, you have to really like the heart in order to become a cardiologist. Or I have a friend who is really into the thyroid, so, like, he could become an endocrinologist. But, like, I don't have an organ that I like. I have organs that I don't like, such as the kidney, because the kidney is very complicated, and basically you put people on dialysis and, like, they die. So I don't want to become a nephrologist. Neurology is very hard, and I don't think I would want to be with people who have stroke. It's detective work. Medicine, internal specialties are detective work, and that is something that can be really fun for an INFP, because our investigative side again. So I can see that, like, I could become an internal specialist. It's just that I haven't found an organ that, like, excites me yet. So I'm sure that INFPs would be, like, a good lung doctor or endocrinologist, or just anything that fires up their passion. So I can't tell you for you. That's something you got to figure out for yourself. Right now, I have no organ that I like. I just know that cardiology is very hard and neurology is difficult. And I don't know, I'm not super excited about the thyroid. But endocrinologists do deal with diabetes. And I hate the kidney. So I definitely will not be a nephrologist. That's, like, on my number one of not specialties to be. But there are other organs in the body. Maybe I could be a gastroenterologist. I don't know. Or what else? What else is in the body? Yeah, I can't come up with any right now. Maybe a lung doctor. Something, allergologist. That might be a good fit, allergologist. You get to decide your own times and stuff. So that's another thing. Now we're coming to psychiatry. Psychiatry is often listed as something that INFPs want to be, because we're interested in human psychology and we're interested in the social bit. I happen to, like, not like psychiatry. It's different thing being a psychiatrist than being a psychologist, because as a psychiatrist, you're not, like, actually doing the psychology treatment. You're basically, I mean, you're dealing with the medicines and stuff, and then you're also dealing with if, like, you restrict a person, like, you're the one who decides if the person has to stay at the hospital, if they have to be sectioned. Yeah, and, like, they're not fun decisions to make. Like, I could see an INFP wanting to become a psychologist, because there you're, like, talking with the patient and, like, having a treatment and, like, following up the person and you know, listening and having a conversation. But as a psychiatrist, you have to make all of the difficult decisions, and I don't know, I just feel like I don't want to be the person to, like, decide if somebody has to be in the hospital or not against their will, if I have to inject them with something to make them sleep. I mean, I don't want to be that person. So I'm not that keen on psychiatry, though I can see why my friends are interested in psychiatry. So I can see why it would appeal, because you can make a big difference in people's lives. but it is also very depressing, and also you have to be very self like sure of yourself, because otherwise the patients are going to like walk all over you, and that's something that's very difficult in psychiatry, because like the patients it's hard to reason with the patients basically. So I can see why an INFP would go into psychiatry, but I myself don't think I want to do that. Okay, next, what's next? I think a skin doctor, like a dermatologist, would be a good fit for an INFP, because you get to be in your own. I mean, you get to meet your patients, and then you give them something, and then they go out and they get better. It's the fact of having your own practice that I think INFPs would do best in, as opposed to being in a hospital, for example. So a dermatologist, I could definitely see that. I have a hard time seeing. I mean, it's like being a cardiologist or any other specialties. Like, you have to like looking at the skin and rashes and stuff. It's harder than it seems at first, because everything, you could think that everything is a rash, so everything could be treated with cortisone, but it's actually a little bit more complicated than that. Yeah, I think that dermatology would be a good fit. Infection, now with corona, everything has become a little bit different, but I think infection is a really exciting internal medicine specialty. You get to see different organs be affected, and you get to see different kinds of patients, old and not so old. So I think that would be a cool specialty. It's just that you have to keep dealing with corona right now, so at the moment, not the best choice. But I think that it can be a really exciting specialty, though it's at the hospital, which is not like the ideal environment for an INFP, I don't think. And then we come to primary care, which I've already talked about. Primary care is, or general practice, or family doctor. It's the same thing. That is something that I would recommend for an INFP. Most because you get to see a lot of different people, and they come into your own practice or a bigger clinic, but it's still that they come into your room, you talk with them, you have a meaningful conversation, you get to do the investigation, and then they get to go home, and then you get to follow up. And I think that that's something that is very meaningful for an INFP. And that's short about it. Another good thing is that you get to have regular hours, and you don't get you don't have to work night shifts unless you have sometimes you have to work night shifts as a specialist. But otherwise it's pretty regular hours. If you like kids are also a big part of primary care. So yeah, I like primary care. Pediatrics, I've thought of pediatrics. I'm not that great with kids. Like, my babysitting experiences were shit. But I would say that a lot of INFPs are probably interested in treating children. Unfortunately, pediatrics, you have to deal with parents often, and you have to have the authority to talk to the parents. I guess it's better once you are older, or if you have kids yourself. As a young person who never has the intentions of having kids, it can be pretty hard to be the authority in those cases. Also, like kids are difficult to like talk with, so you have to talk with the parents, and sometimes it goes well, but sometimes it doesn't. I've had a few parents who have been angry at me because of whatever I've done, and that can be a little bit tough to deal with. But I think that, like primary care, you get a wide range of diseases, and you get to follow up the patients and that kind of thing. So that's good. But I think if you work at a hospital as a pediatrician, you get to see really tragic cases of sick children that are like really sick. And that breaks my heart. So I don't think that I would choose that. Maybe in the future I'll think about it, but it's not something I feel like secure enough to try at the moment. There we go. I think that we've gone through all the specialties. Let's see. Yeah, tell me if I forgot one. I think I've gone through most of them. That's just my own experience, and like what I think of the specialties. Other INFPs might think differently. But yeah, thanks. Bye.